This tale contains themes of abuse that may be upsetting. Your discretion is advised.
I'm tired of being treated like I'm just some sort of bartender. Good, then let's do something about it.
With a thunderous crash, the wine glass shattered into 1,000 pieces, joining the jagged snowfall on the floor gathered like dust on a shelf. Shit-faced bastard! Expelled in one breath came the frustrated voice of a small woman. Running out of creative ones? A bemused man responded, sliding across another expendable glass. Fred deserves something a bit more inventive. Nessa reached up to the table, perching on the tips of her toes to grab it, and testing its weight for a moment before chucking it at the wall with all the emotion she was willing to spend for the night. Like the others, it shattered against the wall, leaving a larger mess for Jimmy to clean up in the morning. Fuck, was all she could muster this time. Jimmy held up the next glass expectantly, but Nessa lifted a hand to wave him off. Rather than put it away, he uncorked a nearby bottle of wine and poured her a tall glass of liquid courage. With the theatrics over with, Jimmy collected his frosted tumbler of Ionan whiskey and enjoyed a long sip, watching the gnomes stew in her frustration. So, how you finding Queen's Edge? Jimmy smiled, ignoring the carnage. It's, Nessa trailed off, climbing onto a stool to take her glass as she moved the hair out of her eyes. I'm getting used to it. Nothing like the Federation. I think we all are. It's only a matter of time, though. He nodded to himself, offering her a kind smile. I like working the bar, though. Don't get me wrong on that. Despite what went down between Freddy and Flo, it's way better than what I used to do. Nessa forced a tired smile. Wouldn't be... I can't think of anything. Just pretend I said something sweet like usual. Jimmy let out a barely contained laugh, leaning back and taking another gulp of the amber gold as it subsided. You don't have to do that, you know? You're pissed off. Stay mad. But you make it so easy to smile. Ha! Still got it. She beamed for a moment before offering a more genuine response. I don't have to do anything, but not enough people do. Nessa rested her chin on her hand, pursing her lips for a minute. Yeah. It's appreciated all the same. So, what did you do before us? Jimmy cocked his head to the side. The question struck her like a bell's clapper, sending a dirge of dread through her entire being as the warm interior of Jimmy's Queen's Edge home melted away like a hallucination. Where is it? Nessa blinked, eyes darting around frantically as she found herself in a place she knew all too well. Where her friend once stood was a large, imposing figure, hair tinted black and eyes lacking a soul. Don't leave me in suspense, Nessa. The apathetic voice washed over her. I got it! Nessa squeaked, digging her fist into her little bag of tricks on her hip. She produced a large vial, holding it up to the looming figure. Its contents shimmered in the gloomy candlelight with cruel purpose. There's a good girl, the large one responded, grinning with yellowed teeth as he lifted the vial from her fingers. Such potential, contained in such a small, fragile shell. He waxed philosophical, eyes on the vial but words pointed at the alchemist. His statement settled softly on the flickering embers of Nessa's spirit like a damp blanket, eating away just that bit more of her self-esteem. Consider yourself paid off for a while. Congratulations. Wait, what? Paid off? You promised me gold! The gnome took a step forward, her grubby little hands balling up into fists. Gold you no longer owe me, you ungrateful whelp! He snapped back at her, teeth bared like the wolf whose pelt rested beneath his feet. Gold you would have just ended up paying us regardless, need I remind you? As his eyes met hers, she shrank right back. They pierced her like daggers, reminding her exactly of the size and strength difference between the two. I can't pay you back if... What am I supposed to eat? You're a mage. Conjure something. He waved her off with a sarcastic chuckle, sitting back into his elegant chair, staring into the vial all the while. She looked down at herself for a moment, shuffling her feet forwards and back as 1,000 thoughts ran through her mind. With a bubbling hatred boiling to the surface, it served as kindling to her soul. The embers flared up with a sudden spark as she grit her teeth and summoned the first bit of courage in a long time. No. He raised an eyebrow, his attention drifting dangerously over the young gnome's head. Excuse me? I said no! I'm not taking this bullshit. Give me the money I'm owed. Nessa took another step forward, keeping her gaze fixed on him. With his movements slow and deliberate, he shifted his weight in the chair, sitting upright and tilting his head to the side, arms coming down to settle on the armrests and legs uncrossing to let his boots rest on the floor. You're in my house, Nessa. A guest. For now. That is subject to change. He stared her dead in the eyes, finding her unflinching for once. And I'll be happy to lift your burden of hospitality as soon as I get my money. I don't gotta take your shit. I got friends now. You watch your fucking mouth, you miserable little fraud. He snapped, spitting the words with venom. I want you to think real hard right now, you glorified doorstop. Real fucking hard about how much your friends will appreciate you dragging them to me to solve your mess for you. As he spoke, he loomed above her even from a seated position like an omen of doom itself. So pick your next words very carefully. Do you have friends? The threat was clear as day to her. Faltering first, she broke his gaze as she retreated a step, while her heart thudded away with fear like a drum. Those friends didn't feed you, I did. Those friends didn't hide you from the Federation, I did, and cheaply too. I saved you, you ungrateful bitch. You belong to me until I say otherwise. You're alone, girl. And you always will be. Unless you do as you are told. He leaned forwards to stand. Her hand jerked to the clip of her satchel and flicked it open, the panicked reaction drawing a slow, unimpressed laugh from her opponent. Oh, you want to try something, do you? He glared at her. Well, you better reach in quickly and hope you grab just the right spell. That's all I'll give you. You get one throw before my knee drives your empty fucking head into the ground and I crush you against the wood like the ant you are. Nessa's hands shook as they hovered over the bag. He knew all of her tricks, every bit of magic she could fake, all except one. But was it ready? What if she grabbed the wrong vial? Anxiety gripped at her throat, chest rising and falling rapidly as the fear set in firmly. Her palms clammed up as she clenched her other fist, breathing harder and harder as seconds turned to minutes. Nessa? Nessa! She snapped back to the present like a slingshot, immediately bringing her empty hand to her forearm, steadying the shaking glass of wine. Her grip nearly snapping the stem of a glass in her hands as her fingers continued to clench against it. Forcing a long breath out of her nose, she slowly opened up the vice that was her curled fingers, bringing her eyes up to meet Jimmy's as he raised an inquisitive eyebrow. Tough question, was it? Oh, I sold magic. She forced a smile, setting the glass down as she released her wrist. How do you sell magic? Jimmy asked. Nessa continued the conversation as if nothing had happened, but as the topic shifted back to Jimmy's shithead of a brother, Nessa found herself unable to ignore the similarities between this new boss and the old one, as well as the new deal in which she had found herself bound. Using one monster to hide from another, it was enough to bring out a bitter, dry laugh that raised Jimmy's brow. When did the world get so big and scary? Mm-hmm.